So for the NASCAR Cup Series, it's the year of Gordon, but what about the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series? Again, it's the number 24 at Hendrick Motorsports, except it's Truck Series veteran Jack Sprague, who won various races and championships in his Truck Series tenure. So now we delve into the question, what current Truck Series team has the opportunity to pull off what Sprague did in the 90s? NRF Productions presents the Spotter's Guide, predicting the 2024 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series regular season. The Tricon Garage is in its second year. One will wonder what tricked up rides are going to roll up out of David Gilliland's garage this season. Are we going to see a fleet that's had a lot of its wrinkles ironed out? Or like 2023, will it be Corey Heim overdosing on winds and painkillers due to carrying the team on his back? Surprisingly, after last season, Tricon is still a 5 full-time truck team. The number 1 truck is going to continue to be a rotation of guys like Colby Howard and Tony Breidinger. I mean, you really think they're going to get anyone? Oh, Christopher Bell is in the Las Vegas race. Still, my take is the same, because if Tricon Garage continues to struggle, we're going to look at whether the quantity over quality approach is really hurting the team, and this number 1 truck is going to naturally be the scapegoat. The only thing that was killed in Homestead last year was Nick Sanchez's championship ambitions. Though Brian Deegan, Matt Crafton, and likely Kyle Busch would prefer to give him a tap on the shoulder, Nick Sanchez as well as Rev Racing deserve a pat on the back for their efforts in year 1. The only change is in Rev Racing's alliance partner, but it looks to be a good one. Just look at Daytona. This is what happens when you pair up with a team that's basically the Steve Cohen of NASCAR. Like many in the industry, I expect that this is going to be the breakout season for Nick Sanchez. Dean Thompson had a record-breaking 2023 season for David Gilliland's truck team. So, what records did he exactly break? Oh, it was Natalie Decker's records in 2019. Dean Thompson recorded a Tricon DGR record 10 DNFs. But hear me out, guys. As Booger McFarlane would say, stats are like bikinis. They show some things, but not all things. The DNFs do not tell the entire tale for Thompson. For 2024, his DNF rate is going to plummet for 2 reasons. The Tricon Garage should be better equipped, and his rival Hailie Deegan has departed trucks for Xfinity. That means it's time for Thompson to prove he's not a Cody Coughlin type that runs sub 15th, all the while he has generational teammates taking the truck series by storm. Kyle Busch continues to single-handedly morph the NASCAR Truck Series into something unrecognizable to the naked eye. Spire Motorsports, thanks to Gainbridge, basically has Steve Cohen-type money to purchase KBM outright. However, even with this purchase, there's only a few guarantees in the NASCAR Truck Series. One of them is Kyle Busch winning, and on a side note, I believe I've already figured out the cheat code to the 2024 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season. KFB is going to run 5 races, but that isn't the biggest question with this number 7 program. Now that the number 7 has a win, what driver is Spire going to tap on the back to run the number 7 in the playoffs? If I had to guess, I say they pull a 2311 Racing 2022 by having either Rajah Caruth or Chase Purdy race the truck in the playoffs. This depending not only on what driver Spire thinks is going to be better equipped, but also season outcome. Grant Enfinger had to work 10 times harder in 2023 to end up on a race team 20 times worse than GMS, basically NASCAR's version of Ho-flation. It's insane. CR7 Motorsports wasn't even a top 20 truck, and now they have a driver that was just 3 laps away from becoming series champion. Grant Enfinger is a high-value driver on a low-value team. However, I'd like to think that Grant Enfinger is the Martin Truex Jr. of the NASCAR Truck Series. He'll be even more so if he argues with new crew chief Jeff Stankiewicz like an old married couple would. Enfinger might be a driver driven by anger this season, considering the end of last year. He so desperately wants to get back to championship contention, and he's hoping to do that with the team that he's pretty much built from scratch. Corey Heim in his first NASCAR Truck Series season put up numbers that you might mistake for a Matt Crafton or a Zane Smith. Not only with the best average finish for a Truck Series regular since Christopher Bell in 2017, but with just how consistent he was, even as he missed Gateway due to illness, Corey Heim would have clinched the title under the old Latford system with one race remaining. Incredible, because talent-wise, he was the Miles Morales of the Truck Series season. However, his actions in the season finale solidified him even more as the Miles Morales of the Truck Series. NASCAR history was forever altered with Corey Heim's actions. You could say this was a temper tantrum moment that was completely unjustified. So the thing is, Corey Heim and the 11 team, they're going to be contenders again, and right now it doesn't look like they're skipping a beat. However, Corey Heim's likely on a short leash. If he slips up again, who's to say that a veteran won't teach him some harsh lessons in this Truck Series season? The number 13 team at ThorSport rejoiced this offseason for two reasons. Number one, their pit area for 2024 won't look like the movie set for Avatar. Second, they're going from a driver that just could not keep her nose clean to a driver that was top 10 in laps completed last year. Look, there's a lot of talk about the NASCAR Truck Series young drivers. They don't race with respect, but Jake Garcia is the antithesis to this. I'd argue he's a razor, a white t-shirt, and a Fit for All membership away from being Mr. Clean. I honestly expect that to continue with 3 veteran teammates that he'll absorb information from like a sponge. Tanner Gray is the NASCAR Truck Series Mendoza line. Last year, he was so close to finally getting past the hump before having a colossal collapse in the second half of the regular season. For 2024, let's go off a checklist. The core is back, check. Tricon Garage will be stronger, check. Tanner Gray wins a race and makes the playoffs. I can't check this one off. Honestly, of all the Tricon drivers and teams, this 15 team is the one that has the shortest ceiling of all of them. Plus, Tanner is the least exciting gray on the team because just look at what Taylor did in his shortened rookie season. His average finish was 11th best among all full-time Truck Series drivers, and he had more top 10s than fellow rookies Rajah Caruth and Daniel Dye. Now this number 17 team is going to be led by Jeff Hensley. Yes, this is the same guy that was 3 laps away from becoming Truck Series champion for Grant Enfinger. Hold up, I'm now starting to see the irony of this entire move. Alright, I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat. This is a move right here that is going to be a plot by Grant Enfinger and Chevrolet to corrupt Tricon's top prospect, considering what happened in the 2023 Truck Series Championship. Alright, tinfoil hat off, or maybe it is actually serious, and it's going to help Taylor grow and mature as a driver. McAnally Hilgemann Racing is a team you're going to hear a lot about as they attempt to become Chevrolet's Tier 1 truck program. To race competitively in any series, you need one thing, and cue the overused Mr. Krabs meme. Money! Tyler Ankrum is a driver that brings the funding, however, he hasn't necessarily brought the talent. This is the same driver that in GMS Racing's Elite 2020 season was the only driver that didn't win and was rather mediocre. Then you have his last 2 seasons at Hattori, a championship team in the Truck Series, and he arguably caused the demise of the entire organization. It's safe to say Ankrum isn't a driver that's going to make this team any more competitive. I mean, I guarantee you right now, he isn't even top 15 in points. Alright, I'm just going to casually pull up the standings. Is this an actual joke? Alright, never mind. This is Tyler Ankrum's season. Well, until he has a mid-season collapse that would even make Tanner Gray envious. Hoping to lead McAnally Hilgemann Racing this season is the driver that helped them finally get past the hump. Christian Eckes, or should I say Christian Eckes, because that's how some of the AI-generated channels would say his name, he broke out and bucked the trend of KBM rejects like Harrison Burton and Todd Gilliland being good but not great drivers in the Truck Series. Heck, we'd be talking about Eckes being the Truck Series champion if there were 5 less laps at Bristol. There is a lot to be optimistic about this number 19 program, but also a lot of worry. Expansion isn't necessarily something that goes through smoothly. Just ask Richard Childers and he'll tell you various stories about 2002 and 2009. So does Christian Eckes continue the momentum, or do we start seeing this number 19 team suffer as McAnally is trying to get 3 other Truck Series programs up to an elite level? Matt DiBenedetto rolled the dice on his NASCAR career and lost. Because of that, he's going to be a couch racer this year with Brett Griffin. As for Ty Dillon, there's the old cliche about another man's trash is another man's treasure. Reckley War made strides as an organization with Matty D, but will it continue? I know Ty Dillon did well in the Truck Series 11 years ago, and it's another experienced Cup guy leading this program. But I look at Daytona where he couldn't even break the truck, and I'm gravitating more towards this season showing that we just love to hate on Matty D. Okay, in 2021 it looked like his brain was a plate of scrambled eggs, but this guy has talent. In year 1 at least, the results from Ty Dillon will lead NASCAR fans to think again on Matt DiBenedetto. Coincidentally, Brett Holmes is after the Reckley War 25. For explanation, in 2022 there was a controversial race in Talladega. I know, shocker. NASCAR made a decision and they determined that it was Matt DiBenedetto winning his first race instead of Brett. I'm gonna be honest, I expected a lot more from Holmes in 2023, especially since they had Jerry Baxter, but let's back up, let's pump the brakes. This was just their first go-around as a full-time entry. For 2024, Brett Holmes returns with a new crew chief, and it's a guy that you guys probably know about on this channel. A few years ago, I called him the most underrated crew chief in NASCAR. Mike Shiplett's abilities, as well as the technical support they get from Chevrolet, that is going to define whether 2024 is the year where Brett Holmes makes Victory Lane his second home. Rajah Brothers Racing, they need some cash, and they're going to take a huge risk on Lawless Allen. At times the last few years, any NASCAR fan with a somewhat functioning brain would ask, what team would be perfectly okay funneling millions and millions of dollars into a furnace pit? Like Dean Thompson, Hailie Deegan not being in the series is going to skew his stats to a more favorable number. What's his ceiling though? 5 DNFs, a 20th place average finish? Rajah Brothers Racing is faced with the uncertainties of how their new driver will perform, like Front Row Motorsports. Their franchise driver, at least in the NASCAR Truck Series, is off to go race Cup cars on Sunday. However, they are not losing any heart and soul by signing Lane Riggs to be Zane Smith's replacement. Lane Riggs is a driver that grew up seeing his dad race in NASCAR's heyday, and now he wants to follow in his footsteps. I know, NASCAR DQ'd this 38 team to where their head hurts just like someone that devoured 5 pumpkin pie blizzards. I'm gonna say it though, Lane Riggs is not missing the playoffs, not when you consider that the 38 hasn't lost a truck race at COTA ever. If you're a NASCAR fan that loves to see raw emotion, it's gonna be surreal to see Riggs as he wins the Front Row Motorsports Truck Invitational in a few weeks. Nice Motorsports the last 3 years broke the back of Carson Hocevar, which I have to clarify, Carson Hocevar is going to be fine. He's teammates with Zane Smith now in the NASCAR Cup Series. If his back pain still lingers, he can just reach out to Zane Smith to try to either get a good healthcare plan or get OSHA involved to safen his workplace at Spire Motorsports, preferably to where he doesn't carry that organization on his back. For Nice Motorsports, they now look for that new anchor driver, and they have Bailey Curry in the 41. His sample size is small, but in his part-time stint, he did score more top 10s than Lawless Allen. Then again, Curry at times gravitated towards overdriving the truck. So it seems like he's a right fit with Nice, just like Matt Mills. Nice Motorsports now has a driver coming in that has had to fight it out on smaller teams. Yeah, he has loyal sponsorship that helped him get his ride, but Mills has paid his dues. If anything, he might be more of a fit than Bailey Curry if he lets his talent do the work, rather than make some completely idiotic moves. Then again, that's what Hocevar did for the last 3 years. Many would think that Daniel Dye was going to go to a rebooted Michael Waltrip that just bought all the assets of GMS Racing. Maybe it's a good thing this never happened, because then NASCAR would have had to move the Richmond cutoff race to March. Instead, Daniel Dye will be the third full-time driver for McAnally Hilgemann Racing. Personally, among the three drivers, Dye has a higher ceiling than Ankrum. If he can reach it, maybe he makes the playoffs. If not, Daniel Dye might be nicknamed the Nut Job, based on how many guys he might run into running mid-pack. For the 45 truck at NASCAR Motorsports, you can cue Smash Mouth because this is the All-Star truck featuring big names. 2016 Truck Series champion Johnny Sauter, Ross Off the Wall, Off the Chain Chastain, as well as Caden Honeycutt and Connor Mozak. A random bunch, but I'm sure Chastain will randomly win one of his starts in the 45. There's a new Truck Series team in town. Faction 46 will field a full-time truck for Thad Moffitt in the 75th anniversary of Petty in racing. Lane Moore, who runs Venture Food Stores, is hoping that running a truck team is like running a grocery store. Although this ride so far has been, no pun intended, out of the groove like one of their sponsors. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, that analogy was cringe. It's never gonna happen again. Next driver. No, we're not gonna do any Freddie Mercury analogies. Because if you were to make Stuart Friesen's 2023 season into a song, there wouldn't be a lot of high notes. Hilgemann Racing has a lot to prove this year. I know they've won a bunch of truck races, but this is an ever-changing truck series landscape. You never know, one year you might win the championship, the next year you might be gone like a Tory Racing is this year. And I think Hilgemann Racing might be that organization in 2024. So for Stuart Friesen, he needs to have a strong season so that the 52 team is thriving instead of fading into the sunset. Hill Motorsports is back with Timmy Hill, no shock there. This is a driver that has matured from causing wrecks as a lap car to winning iRacing invitationals to now a full-time racer in the Truck Series. So, if you're of the notion that the Truck Series needs more veterans because these young guys don't race with respect, I think you should root hard and loud for Timmy Hill to potentially help restore the balance. And that Rajah Caruth has a few talents, being a good people's person, charming Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick to where they are committing to him full-time in the Spire 71 truck this year, as well as triggering a couple Karens on X.
Then I better damn well see a suspension for Rajah Caruth for supporting an actual fucking racist meme at my expense!
Hear me out though, we need to cut her some slack because on that day, At Home, I believe didn't open until 9 a.m. However, in terms of talent, I was hesitant on Rajah Caruth. Sure, Rajah Caruth showed improvement, but this was still equipment that was just 3 laps away from winning the championship, and Rajah didn't even make the playoffs. Well, not even 3 races into the season, Rajah went out and showed why Steve Phelps and a lot of people in the industry really have faith in this guy. It's going to be interesting to see if the momentum translates. Can Rajah become a championship contender, or is this just a fluke? Yes, Purdy has done himself no good by struggling with top teams like GMS and DNQing for Hattori. But with KBM last year, he got to learn from the GOAT of the NASCAR Truck Series. Sorry, Ron Hornaday Jr. With this rebuilding KBM squad, he posted career best numbers across the board, like in top 10s and average finish. Now with Spire, maybe this is the year where all of that knowledge can be used to do some serious damage in the Truck Series. Maybe like what Matt Crafton allegedly did to Nick Sanchez at Talladega last year. Because I'll die on the hill that there is no physical evidence that Matt Crafton himself punched Sanchez. There's a lot of talk about whether we're starting to see the sun set on Matt Crafton's career. He isn't getting any younger, and based on his performance since 2019, maybe his glory days are behind him. He's in his Lightning McQueen retirement phase, as the Truck Series is further being filled with younger drivers that are shuffling out the veterans like they might Crafton in a few years. Yet, I'm just gonna say this, younger drivers are temporary. Matt Crafton is eternal. The 4th truck for McAnally Hilgemann Racing gives me more time to talk about this organization. They're trying so hard to fill the void of Kyle Busch Motorsports at Chevrolet, and it worries me that they're biting off more than they can chew. In 2024, they're responsible for 5 full-time trucks. This includes the CR7 number 9. And I would hope that Bill McAnally intends to give his fab shop guy a raise, because I've got a feeling they'll be working overtime a lot because Jack Wood is the primary driver of the 91. Maybe Zane Smith can make up some of the winnings, but for this 91 entry, I believe it's going to be a long season. Ty Majeski continues to be an intriguing driver for the NASCAR Truck Series. He has a lot of Ty Majeski moments where he runs into drivers, but he's not one of these young kids either. If anything, he's the Ross Chastain of the Truck Series when Ross Chastain's not in the Truck Series. Blue collar guy has worked hard to get opportunities and had a breakout season in 2022. He's just a Hail Melon and an Anheuser-Busch sponsorship away from being Chastain's brother from another mother. Ty Majeski is poised to have another solid 2024, just as long as Joe Shear Jr. doesn't modify his tires to where he gets himself suspended for a critical portion of the season. When you look at the stat leaders in trucks, it's marvelous to see Trey Ryan put out all the categories. The leaders for 2023 go something like this: wins, Eckes; top 5's Heim; top 10's Heim; races finished, Enfinger; champion, Rhodes. Yeah, Ben Rhodes didn't lead a single stat category, and yet he won his second championship in 3 years. Now, some of that was a lot on the mentality of Ben Rhodes, because ThorSport, they were in the midst of their Hailie Deegan experiment. So, Ben Rhodes didn't have Rich Lucius until the playoffs. For 2024, Lucius has come out and said that this team is stronger than in 2023. So what that means is that Ben Rhodes is in prime position to lead various categories like wins, top 5's, and top 10's, then lose the championship because championships just aren't won the way Sprague, Bodine, and Hornaday won. For the 2024 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series schedule, there aren't a lot of changes except that Mid-Ohio is out, and that is going to change a lot of things in the playoffs. As for the regular season, really the only change is that Bristol Dirt is now concrete, and that's going to be an interesting show to watch. So who's going to be as great as Jack Sprague in the late 90s and end up making the 2024 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series playoffs? So when you look at the 10 drivers, you've got to stick with the 2 drivers that are obviously going to have huge years. Those 2 being Corey Heim as well as Nick Sanchez. As for Christian Eckes, I think he wins a couple races, but he won't nearly have the season that he had in 2023. Then, considering that he's the defending champion and he's got his crew chief for the entire season, Ben Rhodes is going to win a couple races. I haven't said Lane Riggs yet, and I believe he's going to get his victory because he's going to Circuit of the Americas. Of course he's going to win this race considering he's driving truck number 38. Lane Riggs is going to be one of 2 drivers getting their first career truck wins in the regular season, as Taylor Gray will make it 2 Tricon drivers in the playoffs. As for the guys on points, I've got Ty Majeski. I think he does solid, but just doesn't get the win. Meanwhile, there's all the talk about these young guys, but you know what? The young guys are temporary. Matt Crafton is eternal, and he has never missed the playoffs in his Truck Series career, so of course I'm going to have him pointing himself in. As for the final guy on points, I've got Grant Enfinger squeaking in. He's going to struggle in the regular season, but by the time we get to July and August, CR7's going to get things going, meaning that Grant Enfinger is going to be in the 10-driver, 7-race fight to win the 2024 NASCAR Truck Series Championship. So I hope you guys enjoyed the Truck Series Spotters Guide. Xfinity is going to come out eventually. And as for the Cup Series, the nearly hour-long Spotters Guide is out. You guys can watch that by clicking. Other than that, this is Nathan Ford, Digital Gas House. Life's a beach, and then you drive.